75 years is pretty amazing for an association. Even more amazing that I think every year it continues to improve.
The SFA is more important than it ever was.
Relationships. You do business with people that you know, that you trust, and that you're friends with. And there's a lot of that in this association.
I think the SFA's done a great job of bringing the industry together.
I'm really proud to be a part of the Snack Food Association and working hard to make sure that it survives for another 75 years.
As you walk down the aisle of your favorite supermarket, club store, mass market retailer, or other outlet and see the incredible variety of products. As you savor potato chips with your favorite sandwich in a restaurant or dip crunchy tortilla chips into spicy salsa, did you ever wonder how the salted snack food industry originated and became a $100 billion business worldwide? It's a pretty fascinating story worth telling, especially as the Snack Food Association, which has manufacturing members in more than 50 countries around the world, celebrates its 75th anniversary in 2012. It's intriguing because the global snack food industry we know today, with all its crunchy vitality and billions of fans, might not even exist as we know it, had fate not intervened nearly 160 years ago in the resort area of Saratoga Springs, New York, and 75 years ago in Cleveland, Ohio. Here's how it happened. One night in 1853, Commodore Cornelius Vanderbilt, a frequent diner at the Moon Lake House Resort, asked the server for thinner than usual French fries. When the server delivered them, Vanderbilt deemed them too thick. Chef George Crumb, a rather hefty American Indian chef, was angry. "If you want them thinner, you'll get them thinner," he thought to himself. With that, he grabbed some potatoes, cut them into razor-thin slices, dropped them in boiling oil, and salted them. Home run. Commodore Vanderbilt loved them. Not only did what turned out to be known as Saratoga chips become a staple on the Moon Lake House menu, but the recipe was copied at establishments up and down the East Coast. It took about 4 decades before an entrepreneur from Cleveland, Ohio, William Tappenden, decided you could make a business out of cooking and distributing potato chips. Up until then, you could only get chips at a restaurant or perhaps a local fair. In 1895, Tappenden mastered the art of cooking the paper-thin chips on his kitchen stove and began delivering them to local grocery stores in a horse-drawn carriage. Business got so good, Tappenden turned the barn behind his East 79th Street home into a potato chip factory. With Tappenden as an inspiration, copycats emerged across the country. The snack food industry was born, fueled mostly by entrepreneurs who, more often than not, began producing potato chips on their kitchen stoves. Among the many originals were Daniel Mikesell of Dayton, who started Mike Sells, Laura Scudder of Anaheim, California, Bill and Sally Utz of Utz Quality Foods in Hanover, Pennsylvania, the Arnold family of Bristol, Tennessee, who started Moore's Potato Chips, Earl Wise Sr. of Berwick, Pennsylvania, and many others. Almost every one of the entrepreneurs had a fascinating story to tell about starting a potato chip business. In the case of Earl Wise, who ran a small deli in Berwick, Pennsylvania, it was, too, a matter of luck. Wise had an oversupply of potatoes in his deli, which he feared would rot. His sister suggested he turn them into potato chips, which he did in his mother's kitchen, then sold them in the deli and to other merchants. Wise eventually became a dominant brand on the East Coast. By the middle 1930s, there were potato chip plants all over the country, all of them boutique or regional in nature. Once in business, many of the entrepreneurs added other snacks to their business, including pretzels, popcorn, and peanuts, all of which had emerged commercially since George Crumb's invention. Julius Sturgis established America's first commercial pretzel bakery in 1861. Nearly a quarter century later, Charles Creeder of Chicago developed a gasoline-powered wet popping machine, which also doubled as a peanut roaster, paving the way for popcorn to become a viable snack product. In 1906, 3 years after the Wright brothers' fabled first flight at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, Amadeo Obici, who co-founded Planters Peanuts, developed a process for commercially roasting shelled peanuts. Potato chips, peanuts, popped corn and pretzels were the 4 Ps in the fledgling industry, but potato chips were the catalyst that brought them all together. Later, of course, there would be a 5th P in the mix, pork rinds. In early 1930s, there was an addition to the 4 Ps. Corn chips, which were commercially introduced by I.J. Filler, a traveling dress salesman who conceived the idea of corn chips while eating in a small Mexican restaurant in San Antonio. He received a patent for corn chips in 1933. The previous year, 26-year-old Elmer Doolin walked into a small restaurant, also in San Antonio, and purchased a nickel sandwich and a 5-cent plain package of ribbon-shaped corn chips. He liked the taste and looked up the manufacturer. Doolin borrowed $100 from his mother, Daisy May, and bought the man's recipe, rights to his 19 retail accounts, and his production equipment, an old handheld potato ricer. By 1935, Doolin, now in Dallas, was the king of corn chips, but he recognized the power of potato chips and introduced them into his growing enterprise. About the time Doolin was discovering the corn chip, Herman Lay lost his job with Sunshine Biscuit Company in Atlanta and took a job as a route salesman's helper, selling peanut butter sandwiches in the Southeast. When the company's founder died, Lay, who had become a distributor, bought the company and began establishing a full-fledged snack food enterprise, including potato chips. The fledgling snack industry was growing rapidly, but the business was fragmented with no overall focus. Enter Harvey F. Noss, a Cleveland advertising salesman. His family owned a local potato chip, ice cream cone, and pretzel manufacturing company called Num Num Foods. No doubt, George Crumb and William Tappenden were 2 of the 3 principal players responsible for the creation of the snack food industry. The third was Noss, who as early as 1931 persuaded other Ohio area chip manufacturers to join forces in a loose-knit organization called the Ohio Chip Association. The group developed a radio advertising campaign and other promotions to sell potato chips. But Noss had a vision of what a national organization of chip manufacturers could do for the future of the rapidly growing industry in terms of public relations, marketing, and other services to its members. In 1937, 75 years ago, Noss and his colleagues expanded their regional organization into the National Potato Chip Institute and held the group's first meeting in Cleveland with Noss as the first president. In short order, with Noss eventually the association's paid leader, the NPCI developed programs to educate consumers and retailers about potato chips, began to develop quality standards for manufacturers, and adopted a package quality assurance seal for members. The focus was on guaranteed quality. The group even developed a series of folders called Diet Data that discussed the nutritional value of potato chips. For over 7 decades, without exception, the association has innovated and developed programs for the benefit of its members. There was nothing sophisticated about Noss's approach to getting members. In a video produced years ago, Noss's son Don recalled how his dad beat the bushes for getting members.
My dad used to take me out hunting for potato chip plants. And we would go into Pennsylvania and look for stacks with steam coming out, which normally denoted a potato chip plant.
Noss would leave Don in the car and go into the plant on a selling mission. He would frequently come out with signature in hand.